All right. Awesome. Awesome. So your name is Erik Allen and you're from Idaho. Were you born and raised there or?
I'm actually, yeah. So I live in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I was born about 4 hours from here out in Washington State in a place called Kennewick, Washington.
Okay.
But used to vacation here in Coeur d'Alene as a kid every summer. And so it's fun to live here as an adult and have my wife and kids out here now. So
awesome. So are you like one of those like Westerners that have like a lot of land and you farm?
That's the end goal. That's the end goal. Yeah. I mean, I live like 3 miles from Coeur d'Alene Lake. And so I live, in a neighborhood, but the end goal is to move outside of town and get the property and things like that.
Wicked.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how your day goes. I'm hearing that you wake up at 4 a.m. to work on your show. You have an MMA podcast. And so you have 2 podcasts. When did you start them?
So yeah, I wake up at 4 a.m. 6 days a week. I started Top Rated MMA as an apparel company in 2012.
Okay.
And then in 2015, I got bored with it, literally put an ad on Craigslist and said, who wants to buy this company, the brand and all that stuff. One guy called me up to offer me a few grand for it. And it was in that call I decided I wasn't ready to quit. So I kind of ho-hummed it for the next year. And then 2017 launched the podcast and had no idea what I was doing. Bad lighting, bad camera, bad microphone, didn't even know to look into the camera. Like, I was in a walk-in closet for almost 100 episodes. And really the idea was just to ask fighters, why do you want to get in a cage and get punched in the face? And that's kind of how it started, and humbly now considered the #1 MMA podcast out here in the Northwest.
Wicked.
But the Erik Allen Show started in like January of 2019, I believe. And what happened was in 2018, I came across a guy named Ed Mylett online. And I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's speaking to me. He's like, This is it, man. And then I was blessed enough to actually win his Max Out Challenge that he issued on Instagram in 2018, where you had to submit a 1-minute story to him via stories on Instagram of what you're passionate about, what drives you to be successful, why do you want to be successful, which landed me a phone call with him, which I was able to record and then release that as episode 12 of my episode. And then that just opened up the doors.
Man, let me tell you. So this is the funny story that I had to tell you. So I was telling some of my buddies, I'm like, okay, so I actually don't recall how I came across Ed Mylett. I don't recall, but it was recently in this last year. Came across his name. So I'm like, who is this guy? Like, I don't know. He looks like he works out a lot.
Yeah, totally.
So, because I'm an MMA fan as well. So I was just like, okay, let me look into this guy. And I find out he's an entrepreneur, learn a little bit about his story. I'm like, okay, find out literally about 3 weeks ago that he had a podcast, because I do food deliveries. You guys got like food deliveries like DoorDash and stuff out there?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So, while I'm doing deliveries, I got some time on my hands. I love listening to podcasts as well. So I'm like, let me see if Ed has one, because I'm guessing it would be great to hear his story and hear the people that he brings in. So start listening to his show, and I'm like, all right, cool. Literally, like, this is like within last 2-3 weeks, I started listening to his podcast. So I know I'm going to have you on, and I just know about your brief story from what you posted in the podcast group.
Yeah.
I literally just looked at your website last night. I'm like, let me just brush up on a little bit about your history.
Sure.
I'm like, Ed Mylett.
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny.
I was like, what? Because I just he posted something recently I think it was in July, and I posted it on my Instagram, and I was like, look, like, guys, if you're looking for somebody to inspire you, check out Ed Mylett.
Yeah.
He knows about having that rough life or tough upbringing and how to transition out of that. And I just found it so funny that you had him on your show.
Yeah, that is funny. I mean, I had no idea who he was until I came across him in 2018, and he was just starting. I think he'd maybe released 20 episodes, maybe, or anything like that at the time. And so I've had some conversation with him via Messenger since. And over the weekend, he actually pinned my comment to his post like on Friday, which was really cool. I was like, dude, that was awesome.
That's dope. Yeah. Like, it seemed like I watched that call that you had with him. Like, congratulations also on winning that call. I think that, I don't know what you did when you won that call. I don't know if you jumped, skipped, hopped. What did you do?
So his challenge was submit this. He had about 1 million followers at the time when he launched that challenge. And it was, hey, give me a 1-minute story of what drives you to be successful, passionate, stuff like that. And I submitted that. And he kept posting all these things like, hey, this is a top runner. Hey, this is a top runner. It was like a month and a half of just all these things. And I was like, oh, there's no way, man. He's got 1 million followers. So there's no way. And then about 2 months later, he announced me and a Camp Agape, which is a Christian camp out of California, us as the 2 winners of the Max Out Challenge. And he's never done the challenge since. And so it landed us a 20-minute phone call. My call ended up going 30 minutes, and I took parts of that call and released that as an episode.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, so that's how I landed that call with him. It was just kind of like mind blowing. And I actually just talked to his brother-in-law on my show last week. That'll come out in November.
Wicked. Oh man, what a great opportunity to like pick his brain and like kind of align with him. I think he also aligns with your purpose and what drives you as well. And I think that's what the beautiful synergy is. Cause I'm like, of course you guys would meet. Like you guys got similar vibes. You like, of course.
I literally have it on my vision wall here, a picture of him and every morning I'm like, Ed, I look forward to meeting you in person. Like I say it out loud. And then like, one of his quotes, and I've got Tony Robbins on there. Those are my 2 guys. And Les Brown is probably, those 3 guys are like the big influencers that I have on my wish list to talk with in person.
Wicked. Yeah. I, it's so funny. I quit my job, about a year, about exact a year. Awesome. Yeah. So I actually joined the mastermind group that Tony Robbins had. And ever since then, I could tell that I've been changing. I don't know about, well, we're going to get into it, but I think you kind of realize that in life, it's like, you feel like you're on the level that you need to be on. And then when you're on that level, you realize that there's another level and you're like, oh snap, like, am I ready? And then God's like, yeah. You know what I mean?
Always. Absolutely.
So, I left my job and I'm just like, I did one of those things where it's like, no prep, just like, I was like, I'm sick of this. I'm out.
Come on. What I mean? I love it. That's awesome.
Right. So
that is awesome.
I'm grateful for it because, what it led me to. And I feel like I want to get into your story because also what spoke to me about your story, I'm kind of doing a new experiment. My first experiment was, can you change the way you think and the way you speak by what you listen to? I started that experiment about 2-3 years ago. I was going to this job and I just realized like, I just kept on hitting this cap space where I wasn't growing and I didn't know, or I didn't think I had the tools to grow. Like I didn't think I had the tools until I reached that spot and I started listening to a lot of inspirational speeches, a lot of, people like Ed Mylett, like a lot of things like that. And that's what started to move me into action. So I want to ask you, like, what was that moment for you where you said, I've had enough and it's time to flip the switch?
I think it was at the end of 2020. So 2020 was a good year for me. I know it was a bad year for a lot of people, but for me, it was a big year for me physically. It was a big year for me mentally to grow in my mindset. And I lost 30 pounds and, like I set a goal to do 90 days of cardio, 45 minutes each day. And I did 120 and I lost like 30 pounds over that time. So it was a good year for me. And I said, when I was going into 2021, that I was going to change things. My word for the year was going to be growth. And I'd never done that before. I'd never done a vision board before. I did a vision wall. I literally covered half of my office wall with quotes and pictures and things like that. And so I knew going into this year that I was going to push myself. I decided I want to be a guest on 100 podcasts this year, on top of releasing 100 episodes of my podcast.
Yeah.
And so I said, all right, we're going to do that. And I think it was, I don't know what day, but it was like at the end of 2020, I said, all right, I'm going into 2021 and it's going to be a whole new game. I'm going to make more money than I ever have online. I'm going to make bigger connections than I ever have before. And I'm going to start investing in myself and personal development, things like that. And earlier this year, I had a guy on my show by the name of Greg Reed. He wrote the book 3 Feet from Gold, which was the follow-up to Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. And he has an event called The Secret Knock.
I'm going to ask you about that. Go ahead. Right? Keep going.
Yeah. And so I had him on my show. And then I asked him about this event, like, how do you get in? He's like, you have to apply and then you get invited. And so we got done talking. He shot me a message and he goes, hey, dude, you're in. I'll see you in September. And I was like, what? Right. And so no idea. I had no intention of doing it. Had no idea of like even I didn't have the money for it. And so I just in talking with him though, I made a decision that I was going to do it. And I started pushing hard to get services and sell stuff through my site and through my podcast. And I grabbed the money within a month and I paid for it. And then at the end of that, he said, hey, you're doing awesome. I want to invite you to my personal mastermind group called Prosperity Camp in July. at no charge. So I was just there in July.
Wicked.
And it was mind-blowing, life-changing event. And so I'll be at Secret Knock here in just like 3 weeks, which I'm really pumped about.
Wicked, man. It seems like, it seems like you got that bug, you know what I mean? And it's a beautiful space to be in when you start to like, I don't even know if you want to call it like waking up. But it's something that happens. And I think it seems like it happened to you several times in your life, especially with, how, the upbringing that you had in that household. I want you to kind of explain that a little bit, because not everybody knows your story, because I read that and I was like, whoa, like that's stuff you see on TV. Like, because it led you into a certain dark time of your life. And now here you are today. So tell me a little bit about that darkness that you experienced and how you shed light on that to be who you are today.
Yeah. I mean, the quick story is I grew up in the normal household, right? We played Little League. We went to Sunday school. My dad would take my best friend Dave and I and literally throw us in dumpsters behind stores and say, go find treasure. That was our Saturday morning, like go out an adventure type trip. And, we just, one man's trash, another man's treasure. That's how we saw it, So we go out and do that, right?
So like, wait, I want to ask you about that a little bit. So when he said that, what did he mean? Like, just do whatever you want, like leave me alone kind of thing?
No, he would go with us literally to big stores, like behind big lots or behind like furniture stores, and literally lift us up and throw us in the dumpsters and say, what do you find in there? Okay, cool. Nothing. Let's go to the next one. Like,
you selling it or just like using it? Like
use it. Yeah.
Oh, dumpster diving. Okay. Got it.
Like legit dumpster diving. Like, like we would go out to dump sites that were out in the field.
Literally a spider on my wall. Sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. No problem. I would be freaking out too.
I'm just looking at it while you're talking. I'm like, how do I do this? Okay, go ahead.
Literally go out to dumpster divers, dumpster sites, and we'd find fridges and just stuff like that as random like bullet casings and stuff. But so that was the typical weekend. And then my parents got divorced when I was 11 years old. I'd never even heard the word before. Didn't have any friends that got divorced. I didn't even know what it was. And it was strange to me because I never even saw my parents really fight that much. I knew that my dad was a drinker at that time. Like I remember like I would find bottles of like half drink vodka bottles in the garage and stuff like that. But I never saw him argue, never saw him like get physical with my mom or anything like that. Like I was totally shocked. My mom ends up getting together with this guy right after that, who's very physically abusive. Like from the beginning, I remember like the first date, I felt like it was that,
Really?
And so we would call the police. They'd come. My mom wouldn't just press charges and then they'd leave.
Right.
And this happened like all the time. Right. And I remember to the point where like I was out in the back and they're arguing. I was looking through their bedroom window and he'd be hitting her with the cordless phone when those were around,
crazy.
And then they did the smart thing. My mom got pregnant, moved us to a small town in Montana called Stevensville, Montana, population 1,200 people.
Wow.
And, so we had 5 acres, beautiful property right behind the Bitterroot River up there, had 2 ponds, deer stands, and it was really cool, except for the house they rented was 3 bedrooms. So it was one for them, one for my brother, who's just a couple months old that they had together. And then my sister, who's 4 years younger than me. They said, Eric, you get to live in the garage. So I literally had this plastic tarp at the end of my wall that separated my bed from the truck that pulled in. And I had a fireplace on my half of the garage to kind of keep me semi-warm during those winters in Montana. Right. Anyways, so I'm 13 years old, brushing my teeth one night. They came home arguing, wasn't anything different than any other night. But as I was brushing my teeth, I felt in that moment that God was saying, dude, you got to turn around. You got to check this out. So the way the house was set up was behind me was the kitchen to the pantry to the garage to my room. And as I turned around the corner, he's in that pantryway on top of my mom. Boom, 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 one shot after the other. I'm like, dude, I got to stop this guy. Yeah. So I walked up and I grabbed a cast iron pan from the cupboard behind him and I swung as hard as I could and I split the back of his head open.
Jeez,
and
man.
He turned around and he said, as he said that, I took another swing and split his forehead open. And I swung so hard the second time, I'd actually fallen over. He still didn't get knocked out. He was so drunk. He's standing over and he's bleeding down his face, starts to yell. My mom jumps up, lands like 6 punches in a row. There's blood splatting on the wall. Cops finally show up, taken to jail for the night. My mom doesn't press charges. I'm then kicked out of the house. I have 3 months left of my freshman year. Immediately. Yep. So I was had to go basically bouncing around from friends' houses for the last 3 months of my freshman year of high school.
Right.
And that set me on this path of destruction for the next 10 years of my life.
What now that if you don't mind me asking, so that path of destruction, because I know you've served some time and you were going through a tough moment. What was the emotion? That's what I'm curious about. Like, what was it that you felt looking at it now? I mean, it's kind of hard sometimes to look at the past, but what was it that you feel got you into those moments where you kind of just like lost track in a sense?
I think it was just a sense of not really caring. Like, I just accepted that this was the life that I had and nothing was going to change. And the only way to really numb that, and I didn't really see it as numbing at the time, but looking back, I definitely was doing that. But I saw the only way to numb that shame and embarrassment of coming from, this abusive family and having to beat up this guy when I was 13. That's by far the only fight I've ever been in my life was at that moment, by the way. But so it was just this, it wasn't like something I wanted to go out and tell people that I did. So I think I just hid that around by doing drugs. So by the time I'm 18 years old, I got arrested for having a bong, which is now legal in the state of Washington, but it wasn't at the time. I had to go to jail, black and white chain gang outfit on. 2 weeks after I graduated, I woke up to a Post-it note on the bathroom mirror of my dad's house. I was now living with him at that time. And it said, you can't comply with house rules. You have 48 hours to get out. And so I basically was back to homeless, sort of, right? So between the age of 18 and 21, I moved 21 times. I lived on couches of second cousins, of friends of second cousins and things like that, week here, 2 weeks there. And I had $100 in my pocket and moved up to Seattle, Washington. I'm basically living off of credit cards. So by the time I'm 21, I'm $28,000 in debt and had to file bankruptcy. And through that time, I'm battling, alcoholism, and I'm battling every drug that you can think of, from acid to mushrooms to pot to opium to hash, Robitussin, DM, cough syrup. Like, I mean, I was like all over the place, and landed a job with Universal Records when I got up to Seattle. It was always a dream of mine to get into the music business. I don't know how to play anything. I just was curious about like the music. I'm very intrigued by it. And what that did was basically I had this year of going to 2 to 3 concerts a week, and I had open tab. And the year before that, my buddy was the manager at a concert venue where I had open tab. So I basically 2 year span, about 175 concerts, and didn't pay for a single drink for about the 2 years, and just got totally loaded. I got laid off my 1 year anniversary at Universal Records, which was a bum deal, but it was during the Napster days, if people remember that.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was the low man on the totem pole there. And it really set me into this depression. I was working at Starbucks at night. I get off work, go get my 6-pack of beer, go to my apartment and drink myself to sleep. And so one night this girl walked into Starbucks and she said, "Hey, we've got this cool college age event down in our church. Would you be interested in going?" And I'm depressed. I'm lonely. I have no friends. And she's really good looking. Absolutely. What time do I need to be there? Right. Like that's what's going through my head.
Yeah.
And I got down there and it was like, all of a sudden I knew all these guys from high school and like 10 years ago. Dude, I haven't seen you in 6 years. I haven't seen you in 5 years. It was just this weird connection. I think God was planting a seed in that moment, because a month later was Easter 2004, and went out and I was managing a band. We played the night before Easter down in Prosser, Washington, small town. And I wake up in my buddy's basement, surrounded by probably 15 guys. And I felt God in that moment say, "You're going down this path that's going to end your life very quickly." I just kind of accepted that this was the life that I was going to live, just this party life, and it was going to end soon. But I just accepted that. But in that moment, I felt God speaking directly to me saying, "You're done." And I quit cold turkey drugs, drinking cigarettes, everything right there.
Yeah.
And I called that girl up who invited me to that church event, got her voicemail. "Hey, thanks for inviting me to that church event. Maybe I'll see you at the store sometime." And a month later, we're dating. Now we've been married for almost 17 years.
Yo, praise God, man. That's like, sometimes it's like, I'll look at certain situations and I'm just like, there's no way that like somebody just like, like it just happened. Like, I don't, at this point in my life, I don't believe in just, just like the cards that you would tell, just like I feel like there's certain things that just like happen, and it's given. These things are happening to you for a reason, because there's something else here that you need to share. There's a story that you have to share with other people to know that there is a way. There is a way, but it's wow. That is such a special journey of like, having those moments of darkness, but then like getting to that moment of light of where you are today. Like that's wild. God was like, we gonna send you this pretty lady, okay?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
ain't nothing gonna wake you up. I could send you
Totally.
Jesus Christ himself. You're gonna be like, what? Who are you? Like,
yeah. Crazy thing. We're actually both born at exactly the same minute, 1:41 p.m. on our birth certificates. Different days, different years, but the exact same minute.
What is that?
Apparently it's not a world record. I submitted it to Guinness. I'm like, what is
Yeah,
the odds,
like what
right?
is that? What, like 141?
Yeah.
That's gotta be a business name now. Like you gotta have
I know,
something
right?
141. Like make it like, I don't know if you could start prayer at that time. 141. That's like special, man.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
pretty crazy.
That is insane. I mean, I'm grateful to hear your story because I heard it and I was like, no way. Like, is that the same girl? Is it the same?
Right.
Like, yes,
Same
it's
girl,
the same
man.
girl. Like,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Like, you know, I feel like you guys are brought together for a reason. And, you know,
For
I
sure.
hear that you guys are both working together, doing things that you need to do to get the word out. And
Yeah.
and I love that you have a foundation of faith because
Yeah.
I'm learning my foundation of faith in this current time. So
Yeah.
that also aligned me with you too, because I wanted to know, like, just like I said, I'm doing this experiment because I feel like sometimes like we only call on God or a higher power when we're going through darkness, or we can't see until that moment, you know? And I feel like for you, it's like these deep moments.
Yeah.
You know, from your childhood, it happened. And then also again, you know, in your adult life, it happened, you know what I mean? And now it's like, okay, now you're working with them. Now you're working with them consistently. And I could see that in you. I could feel that from you. You know what I mean? And we're on a video call. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that is so dope because, you know, I know some people aren't, you know, religious or so, but
sure.
You know, I believe that what the lesson is here is like when you're kind of on a path for something that's bigger than you, that's why getting up at 4, it's like, it might suck, you know, sometimes.
Totally.
But you go through it anyway.
Yep. You have to. Here's the thing. I've been waking up at 4 a.m. for about 10 years now. And for me, it's that time where I can draw close to God and I don't have any interruptions. I know that like, I'm not going to interrupt my family time because they're sleeping. And I know that if I don't wake up at 4 a.m., I'm going to get mad, even on nights when I don't want to. Last night, we were at the fair and we got home way later than I wanted to. And I didn't get to bed till after 10 o'clock. I still got up at 4. And now I had a backup alarm that I always have just in case I don't wake up at 4. I slept through the first one. First time I've ever slept through the first one was last night. Like the second alarm went off and I was like, holy crap, like jumped out of bed. No, but here's the thing. If I wake up, open my eyes, there's win number 1. And then I jump out of bed, I make my bed. There's 2 wins in 15 seconds. It's going to be an awesome day. You've got to stack those wins to make it a successful day. Right. And so, 4 a.m., that's my time to really draw close. I mean, I get upstairs, I look at my vision wall. I say out loud everything on the vision wall. I speak to the pictures that are on there. I say, I am statements like, I am the owner of that property. I am the millionaire, right? Ed, I look forward to meeting you in person, like those type of things. And then the whole time I've got worship music playing, you know, and then I sit down and I have to spend time in prayer every morning. It's a non-negotiable, right? So I get done with that stuff. I sit down and I just say, God, thank you for today. And it's more of a thank you out loud, grateful list that I go through in my head, right? Like, thank you for health and protection of my family and blessings in this house and cars and debt. I mean, no debt, right? And that stuff helps me draw close. And I know that if I can just put it out at God's feet and say, man, Lord, I know that you're in control. You take care of this. We all have a purpose, whether we believe it or not. There's a purpose for every single person on this earth.
Absolutely.
You know, right? I mean, whether they know God or they don't, there's a purpose in their life, right? They were designed and created to do something on this planet huge, whether they believe it or not, right? If they open their eyes and take action, boom, it's going to be awesome, right? And I think just in the last year, like I said, at the end of 2020, I said, from this day forward, I'm moving forward and it's about growth and it's me drawing closer to God. I want to grow my relationship with him and my finances and my marriage and with my kids. And, you know, I want to grow exponentially. I don't even know if I said that right word.
Exponentially.
Right,
I understand what you're saying.
Right.
Maximum growth.
Maximum growth. Always. Yeah. Max out. Like, you know, Ed's got a quote, you know, and Tony Robbins said it too, like life happens for us, not to us.
Absolutely.
And once I accepted that, man, and I realized that my past and other people's opinions do not define my future, boom. Like it's time to start kicking some butt, you know?
Hell yeah, man. Like I love that fire because it's like, it's with intent. It's with intent. It's not like, I'm just going to do something. Like, what are you going to do? It's like, okay. And you know what I also love, because I heard that in one of your videos as well, because I was just telling my girlfriend this. I was like, yo, you got to have the small wins, because the thing is, it's like, I learned that through when I went through depression. You know what I mean? It's like, I went through times where I wouldn't get out of bed for a week. I would just be done. And I would just, it's like a weird space of wanting to die, but then you're in that pity party that you don't even have the energy to take action in that, because you're like, oh, now you're going to kill yourself, huh? Like now, it was just like a horrible moment. Right.
Right.
And that's like when I started to do this experiment and stuff, but I realized, my mom used to say this to me too. Like, I'm thinking like, oh yeah, you just want me to be clean. You want me to make my bed. Like, I didn't realize like how important that is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even for the brain, for more ways than one. Totally. Sleep is done. Like, we're done sleeping, because you get into bed, it's like bed's a mess, whatever.
Yep.
But it's like the brain knowing sleep done. You're starting your day. Yes. Right.
Yep.
And then also too, I did something like, that's like a self-love thing, like a standard, a principle. When I get out of bed, your brain is like, this must happen. This must take place. And that's why, like, sometimes I'm like, yo, like, make the bed, like start there. Because the thing is, what some people don't realize with even depression, or those moments where we feel so dark and so worthless, we have to make it simple. Because when you make those achievements way, way high, which is what I was doing in the first place, I was like, okay, I got to get to here. But then I wasn't hitting it. I wasn't hitting it. So all I did was stay down here. And I'm like, well, I'm never going to be good, because I suck, or I'm not worthy. And it's like, you try, but it's never going to happen, because you suck. You're telling yourself you suck.
Yes.
But when you have those small wins, then you can start to be like, okay, what's next? Baby steps.
Right.
Baby steps.
It all is, man. It's about stacking those wins. And then I think it's also surrounding yourself with the right people. Right. So, get uncomfortable to get comfortable. And I say that in like, like Ed talks about, you got to go find guys that are walking around 185 degrees if you're walking around at 85, because just being in their presence, they're going to start checking up on you. They're going to start lifting you up. They're going to start encouraging you. And I'm not talking about like kissing your butt way, but like legit people that are there to help lift you up and get you to that next level. Right. There's always growth. Like, one of the things that Ed talked to me on my call with him was canny, and it's on this wall here, and it says constant and never ending improvement. And I see that every day when I get in, no matter what, I want to get better every single day. And I feel like I can always improve in areas. And I think we all can, right? Like, we can always get better. Never want to be the smartest person in the room. Right. So listen to podcasts, watching YouTube videos of speeches and things like that every single day. And you have to be consistent with it. Right. If you want to be successful, you can't just do onesie twosies once a week, right? Like, always at least do something on a daily basis that helps you get closer to your goal.
Heck yeah, man. Tell me how much and how important accountability is in your journey.
It's huge. I mean, I think I always thought for the longest time that I could do this thing on my own. Like, I was going to, I can be successful on my own. I can beat the drugs on my own. I can beat the alcoholism on my own. I never told people that I had addictions. I just did it. Right. Like, I'd go to my apartment and then hide. Right. And so I'd get off work, and they would think, oh, maybe he's just having a beer. Like, if I would go out with him, but then I'd go home and it would be like the heavy drink time, because I knew I wasn't going anywhere. I could just pass out in my apartment. Right. And so I think accountability is huge. Like, if you find those right people that are going to be holding you accountable, tell them what your goal is, tell them what you want to do. Like, find those people that are living the life that you want to live. Heck, and go do that. Find out whatever it is and go hang around them and go do that. When I first gave my life to Christ, I had to take that break away from hanging out with my buddies at the bar. Like, I had to tell them, like, dudes, I'm sorry, but I got to get sober. I got to get healthy. I have to break away from this. And I took like 6 months where I didn't go to the bar, I didn't hang around, I didn't call any of those guys, right? And what I did was I replaced that with guys that were going to the church, that were successful in their marriage, successful in their walk with Christ, successful in their business. And without realizing it, because I wasn't even thinking about interviewing them, but I was taking them out to get coffee and essentially interviewing them. Tell me about your story. Like, how are you doing what you're doing? What did you do to get there? And what failures did you take? And I started like reading like crazy. I'd never read books before that. But once I was like, dude, if I draw into books, right, I can draw close to God. And I started reading like a book a week. I was like,
Wicked.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. I was soaking up as much stuff as I wish I still had that passion for reading books. Now I listen to a lot of them, but it's just, I had to put myself in that environment that was going to help grow me and stretch me. I heard Mike Tyson say, if you want to be successful in life, you got to get brave, right? You got to get out of that scenario of that situation that you're in and go step into a zone that's going to push you and challenge you. And you're going to grow and get stronger in that.
Hell yeah. Oh my God. Like even some of the books that you read, I read Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
Now I don't even know why I didn't realize Ed Mylett had a book out. Of course he has a book out. Like
he does. You
can
get it for free.
I saw, and I'm like, okay, next book. I read. So starting within the last year, I've probably read over 20 books.
Wow.
I've just been going in because I realized that, and I forgot who said it best, but there's a direct correlation between reading and your behavior.
Oh, for
so
sure.
if you are, not introducing new thoughts, new ways to perceive your reality, you will stagnate and you won't grow unless something forces you to, and then you make that conscious decision. But that's something I love that you're highlighting, because you're showing like how much work. Because some people are like, oh, you just do a podcast, so you just talk. It's just so easy. Like it's not just that. There's prep work. There's that's why I asked you about accountability, because I don't know if you've heard of her. Her name is Brene Brown.
Yes.
Okay. Of course. Of course.
Yeah.
Have you read any of her books yet?
No, it's on my wish list.
Oh man.
I heard they're awesome. But I follow her on Instagram, so I check that stuff out, but I have not read any of her books.
Yeah, man, you got to read. I just finished Dare to Lead literally like last week.
Okay, I heard that book is amazing.
Wicked.
Okay.
And she also check out her podcast too. She has 2 of them. But the reason why I bring it up is because something that she said, and the thing is, I realize this, but sometimes, some people have a way of wording things, and you want to say it, but she just said it. So she was just saying how much, like, just focusing on this country in a sense, we have an issue with accountability and ownership. And I realized that because I spent over 17 years in customer care, being on the phones and hearing people say like, well, you didn't send me the bill. You know what? I just got the bill last week. I don't know why it's not working. My powers, I don't know. Everything is just, I don't know. You know what I mean? Not everybody was like that, but it's like, the speed, like, I wanted to like highlight also on this talk with you how important it is, because I know because it's about how important your words are, not only to yourself, but to others. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So important. Like if you for me, for the longest time, I never wanted to let my wife down. My end goal was, I want to bring her home and let her like be the dream job that she wanted was to be a full-time mom. And so I wanted to be able to provide for her. So I told her early on, I'm going to do this for you. And it was 6 months after my daughter was born that she was able to come home. My daughter's 11 now. So my wife's been home for 11 years. If you tell yourself stuff that you're going to do, I'm a big believer in you have to do what you say you're going to do always. Like that's not only that is that honorable, but it's loyal, it's trustworthy. Like that's how you gain that type of stuff with other people. Right. And so, for me, like we were talking earlier, like in 2020, I decided that I wanted to be the most fit 41-year-old guy that I knew. Right. Nice. And so I started working out, and I said, I'm going to work out every day, 45 minutes of cardio. I'm going to watch what I'm going to eat. And I went 6 days and I quit. I was so pissed. I was so mad. I woke up on day 7 and I was like, seriously? It wasn't even like I had something that got in the way of working out. I just got lazy. And then I was so mad. I'm like, that's it. I'm not doing that again. And what I did was I went 120 days straight from there on, working out 45 minutes a day at a minimum. And I cut 30 pounds, and I didn't eat a French fry. I didn't eat a potato chip. I didn't eat a sweet, nothing for 120 days. And I just was like, I'm going to push my body to do this. And I did things even when I was on vacation. Like I was like, I'm not going to let vacation break away from my goal that I said I'm going to work out every day. We're up in the mountains, and I'm like by this high school track, the gym's closed. I'm the only guy out there at 4 a.m. running as much as I can for 45 minutes. I'm not even a runner, but I ran like 4.25 miles in 45 minutes. And it was like, boom, I did that in the mountains. And so you got to hold yourself accountable. And I think that's, like I said, it builds that trust, it builds loyalty. And especially if you tell somebody else that you're going to do something, like always do that, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, for me, like I still work a full-time job. So I do all this stuff at the really early morning hours. I switch over to the work computer, and then at 5 o'clock, I cut it off, and that's family time on, you know? That's dope. So you have to set things that are priorities, right? I mean, you have to have that time block. You have to do what you say. So I told my wife, hey, 5 o'clock, I'm getting off work. 5 o'clock, I'm getting off work.
Right.
I got a hold of that.
Right. Man, that's drive. But it's your why, right? Mm-hmm. It's like your why. It's like, okay, well, who said it? Oh man, I listen to so many shows and read so many books, but I'll just say what he said. But I forget who it is, but they pretty much have a mantra, like kind of how you wake up. Because I have that wallpaper that's like a chalkboard.
Oh yeah,
my space.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I, when I was doing my, starting my experiment to, change the way I speak and everything, like, okay, that's step one. Now, step two is working on my worthiness, because I have issues from when I was younger and being called worthless that I have to work on. So it's like I started to repeat that in my head. So that's my journey that I'm working on right now. And I put up affirmations, I am just like you, saying like I am. And I put up, different things so that as soon as I wake up, boom, it's in my face. I have to read it. Yes. I have to. The accountability thing, when you start to do something every day, I feel like, let me know if this is the same thing for you.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you don't know really, like, because I know you gave me some dates or around, certain times where you started to change, but like, do you consciously realize when the shift happens for you? Or is it like you go down that path and like, am I here? Like at the next spot already? Like, how does that feel for you?
It feels great. I think that when I was 39 years old, that's when I shared my story publicly. So I held all of that in for 39 years.
Whoa.
And I came across a guy named Pete Vargas online, and he was talking about sharing your story, whether that was a TEDx or in front of people, and getting out of that comfort zone to share your story, because it could impact somebody that you don't even know. Like just putting it out there in the internet world, like one person could hear that, you could change your life. And that's really what my goal was when I first launched, and like I recorded my story. It's like the original one was like 8.5 minutes long. I took it to my wife. I'm like, what do you think? Should I put this out? And she's like, well, I think it's great. You can put it out, but just remember that people that you're talking about and your family might hear that, and you have to deal with what they're going to say. And I had to go, okay, do I care about their opinions or do I care about impact? And then I said, okay, we're going to put this out. And it's been, I've gotten some really great feedback. And my number one goal on a daily basis is to put a smile on one person's face, whether that's in person or in virtual. So like, if I can make an impact on a daily basis, like that's my end goal. If there's money that comes, great, but it doesn't matter.
Right.
I'm not worried about things. I'm worried about impacting people. And whether, like, yes, I'm a Christian, but it's not my job to judge anybody. It's not my job is just to love them where they're at. And so if I can encourage somebody and get out of whatever they're feeling they're stuck in, that's my end goal.
Yeah. Praise God, man. That's dope. Yeah. That's aligning with my purpose too. Like, I want to help the people that, went through stuff like me, going through depression. Depression is no joke. Like not everybody makes it out of there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, I feel like, I know sometimes, medicine, absolutely, prescriptions, whatever, but
sure.
I feel like if you don't do that internal work, that medicine's not going to do anything. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm a firm believer, like faith without works is dead. Like you could be like, okay, I'm taking this pill and, we're going to be all right. Like I could feel my moods changing, but what behavior did you change? And what put you in there in the first place? But I feel like everybody has that ticker. Everybody has that ticker, that thing that caused that change where you don't feel too good about yourself, or you don't feel like you have any purpose on this planet. What is that thing? Because I know I had that thing of me being in denial about who I was. And that's what would cause me to drink heavily and be out and party. And I would just blame everything on the alcohol. Like, I don't know what happened. You know what I mean? And until I realized that was part of it, and then the worthiness, that's when I was able to start my journey to heal.
Yeah, I don't think that you can heal others or make an impact until you've built a strong foundation in yourself. Or like whether that's a relationship with Christ or getting sober, or you can't teach people to do things that you haven't gone through, or you can't really impact people on things that they are going through that you haven't gone through. I think it's tough to connect, right? And so I'm going to have a certain group of people that might connect with my story, and there's going to be some people like, dude, I don't even know what that guy's talking about. I never had that experience, right? And I may not make as big of an impact on those people, but there's going to be people out there that went through the same struggle that I did. That I think for a very long time, like I said, didn't share my story until I was 39. That I felt like I was the only guy that I knew that went through that type of childhood trauma, went through those drug addictions, that was in jail at 18, that was bankrupt at 21. Like I was the only guy that I knew that went down that path. And I thought, well, this is just me. I don't need to share it out. I don't want to share it out because I'm embarrassed. I'm full of shame. I couldn't keep a relationship, I dated a couple girls for maybe a year or two, but other than that, it was like real short, real quick, relationships. And I never felt like I could connect right with anybody. I never understood why. And now looking back, I'm like, well, yeah, look what I grew up around. Look at the trauma. Like I didn't want to be around somebody, or I didn't want to bring that junk into my, relationships and stuff like that. And I think God works in mysterious ways. He brings this girl into Starbucks that I don't know, that doesn't even drink coffee. Right. She invites me to this event. She comes from a broken home, different scenario than I did, but we both come from very unstructured home life. Right. And so we came and we got married, and we both knew exactly what we didn't want in marriage. But we also brought junk in. For me, I brought in like defensiveness. I was like always blamed as a kid. So I was always like, well, I didn't do it, or no, that's not my fault. So I had to work through that. We spent the first 5 years, just us. Like we wanted to get to know each other. We traveled and we went to camping, and we went down to Mexico twice, and we built homes down there and gave people like from dirt floors to a house over a weekend, with a lock on their door. And it was life-changing for me. I'm not even a tool guy. My wife grew up in the shop. I grew up, my dad said, pay people to do stuff. So she knows all the tools in our house are hers. Like she's the tool person. We say her tool is his tech, because I'm kind of the nerdy tech guy. Right. But I just like those moments that we had where we got to like come together and go, all right, I know that I have this. I came from this. Now we can change the legacy of our kids, and our kids are 11 and 8 now. And now they'll never experience the life that we had, where both of our parents have multiple divorces and marriages and multiple divorces and, all that stuff. And we said from day one that when we say I do, it's forever, like our kids will see us argue. They'll see us fight out loud. They'll see us make up. They'll see us dancing in the kitchen. They'll see us kissing in the kitchen, right? Like they'll see that, and they know that, you know what? We made a promise to each other. We're going to stick it out. There's going to be rough days. There's going to be rough years. There's going to be rough months, but we're going to get through it. And here we are 17 years later, almost.
Oh man, congratulations. That's amazing. I mean, it shows how powerful vulnerability can be.
Yeah.
Because I think, just like I have to bring up Brene Brown again, because she talks about things like that, like shame and vulnerability and trust. And it's wild, because like, even like at the past place I used to work at, I'm like, it's almost like for me, it's a feeling. Like I can feel like a barrier between me and another person when they're not being open. And sometimes I don't know if it's me, I don't know if it's them, or if it's us, like, you know what I mean? But I start to ask the questions. I'm like, well, tell me about, X, Y, and Z, and see if they're open to it. And then I'll share a piece of me and see, like, look, I'm letting you know what's going on here. Like, are you aligned with that? And I know that some people aren't ready, and that's, part of it too. But there is such strength in vulnerability. And I'm glad that you reached a point where, whether it's at 39 or, I'm glad that you reached that point, because it's so powerful, as you see. You never, like, you did you get like people coming out of different areas like, yo man, me too? Like, did you get that when you shared your story?
I have gotten messages like that. Yeah, it's been cool to see, man. And it's been cool to kind of see the people's journeys that have been listening to me for a while. When they, I'm 41 now. So my story, I think, publicly got released in like November of when I was 39. So almost 2 years ago did I release my story. And it's been cool to see that impact that is made. And honestly, it's nothing I did. It's all God just opening those doors and giving me the strength to be able to get that out there and use me through that. So, but it is cool to see people grow in their relationship or get out of situations that they thought they were just stuck in, right? Like whether my story helped them a little bit, I love it. Like, but if I can help them just get pushed out of that situation where they feel stuck, that's really the end goal.
Heck yeah. So tell me a little bit about, your MMA podcast. Tell me about Top Rated MMA.
Yeah, Top Rated MMA. I love it. It's so much fun. I'm not a fighter, but I have so much respect for fighters. And I love that, like, these guys, they go into a cage, amateur fighters, they don't get paid. They're in there building the record. They're like literally locked in a cage. And then there's a guy across the way or a gal across the way that literally wants to hurt them, right? Like, yeah. So I'm so intrigued by their stories. Like, ask them, why do you want to get in a cage to get punched in the face?
Right.
And that's really the concept of the show when it started, and it's evolved, but I still kind of go back to that question. And I've heard everything from, hey man, I did karate or I did MMA or wrestling and it transitioned to MMA, to guys who are like, I have a federal offense and I can't get a real job, but I can go fight for literally put food on the table, And so in most of the time, 99% of the time when they fight, they know it's professional and it's nothing personal. When they get in there, they're hugging, they're shaking hands afterwards. Right. And you do have the 1% of where it's beefy and, they hate each other, but it's very rare. And so I love that respect aspect of martial arts. One of the cool things my dad did when I was a kid was he would rent movies of ninja movies that didn't have any English. It would like I couldn't understand a word they're saying, but it was so cool to watch these ninja movies like back in the day, or Bruce Lee and all this stuff. I think I was a ninja for Halloween for like 15 years straight. Like, I was just enthralled by ninjas. And so, then he would take me out to wrestling. So I got into wrestling at an early age. Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah, Hulk Hogan used to be my favorite. I had like the beach towel of Hulk. I'm like, Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Hey, brother.
Funny story. When I first met my wife, she came to my ghetto apartment and my mom had just dropped off these sheets that I had as a kid, which was like Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior. And my wife opens this closet and she's like, what the hell are these? Right. You
sleeping on them.
So it's just funny. But yeah, I mean, I think MMA. So I love talking to the up and comers. So I talk with a lot of amateur fighters from across the world, and I want to help them get their name out there. If they're dedicated online and they're really fighting for this sport, whether they go pro or not, like, I want to talk to them. Why do they want to get in there and do that? And I've been blessed to speak to a lot of guys. Ken Shamrock's been on my show twice. A couple guys from the Ultimate Fighter House currently are on there, have been on my show. Episode 241 drops this weekend for me. And so, that for me, it's huge to be able to do that and connect with those fighters. And so that's really what it's all about, is I want to talk with fighters. I want to get them known and noticed out there. And I kind of set a personal goal to talk to a male and female fighter from every state. And I have probably 3 or 4 states left to go.
Oh man, I saw the map you posted. Yeah. Like, with all your guests, I was like, yo, this man is going national to international.
Totally. Yeah.
But that's, it shows, like, I mean, I think it's awesome when you give somebody advice and they take that advice, because Ed was like, look, man, get out there and get on those shows. You're just like, say no more. Like, just
totally. And you know what I did? Right after I talked to Ed and he said, go get on shows and stuff. I set a goal to do 50 podcast guest spots in 2020. I only did 26. I was really mad. And I was like, I'm going to do 100 this year. I'm going to quadruple that number. And so here we are. I think this is probably the 80th show I've been on this year, which is really rad.
I'm grateful to be on, help you. Because now, after we're done, I'm going to end a little early, in a few minutes, but I'm going to mention 2 more podcasts. I'm like, okay, you got to go on these 2, because you're going to meet that goal. You're going to exceed it, I feel. Because you have such an amazing story, and I love the place you're in right now, because that's a beautiful space to be in when you're like in that can-do attitude. And it's just like, even the days that, like, let me know if I'm reading you right, but even the days where you dip a little bit, that your purpose comes back, kind of gets you back up again, little by little. Does that happen for you?
Totally. And to get out of those bad days, you have to have those non-negotiables, right? So non-negotiable for me is waking up and realizing that I'm blessed if I open my eyes, right? And then I come upstairs and I look at my vision wall and I spend time in prayer. Those are the non-negotiables. Even when I travel, I have photos of my vision wall. So I'm still looking at them, right? So always have that, right? Yeah. And I think the other thing is that we have to realize is people say they have bad days, but are we having a bad day or are we having a bad 15 minutes? Right. So if we can go, yeah, I stubbed my pinky toe on the dang bed. That's not going to hurt me for the whole day. It might sting for 10, 15 minutes, but get over it and go accomplish the goal for the day. Right. No one has bad days. They have bad moments.
Yeah.
And then it's up to them to decide how they react and how they take action. Right. And so if they can get through that, that's a mindset that I had to work on for a long time. In my early 20s, like, man, I have a bad day. This sucks, man. I got to wake up. I got to go to work and, I'm hungover and all this stuff. Right. But then as soon as I realized that it's just a bad moment, it's a bad 10 minutes, a bad 15 minutes, then we can get over it. And we just move on. We keep going. Let's make an impact on this day. Let's get through that pain, push through it and keep going.
Right. Hell yeah. Like, I mean, absolutely. Like I used to be that person. I'm like making those statements where something not in my favor happens and I'm like, well, I see how this day is going. You know what I mean? Like statements like that, because now you just cast a whole dark cloud, like any moment of faith or like blessing you won't see because your mind is on a negative frequency.
Totally.
Or now I'm speaking unfavor to me, but then God's over here or the universe or however you want to say it is showing you blessing. And you're like, nope.
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean? Like it took me a while to realize that too. And there are moments like I'm going to correct myself now because now I'm conscious of it, which is good. I have moments where I dip a little bit and I'm like,
sure,
how am I going to get through this? How am I going to get through this? And then I'm like, I hear this little voice back there. The voice is quiet. It sounds a little quiet, but it's like, we got this. Don't worry. Like I gave you all the tools you need. You are ready. Just keep going. Just trust and believe. Just keep going. And then I'm like, what'd you say? I said, just trust and believe.
Right. Totally.
You know what I mean? Because I think that's also part of the struggle because, we have a mind. That's the thing. We have a mind where there are things that are going to come up based on past triggers, past experiences. And because of who we are or how we align at that moment, we may listen to that, the dark side in a sense. If you want to talk Star Wars, you got the dark side, it's totally. Why don't you just stay in bed? Why don't you do it tomorrow? But then the voice is like, no, don't do it. You don't procrastinate. And you're just like, what? Yeah. You're like, this is so much easier.
Oh, but it's so much easier.
Fight through that, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think even for myself, and I think everybody goes through these days or these moments where they're like, crap, man, today's going to suck. Right. And I think if we realize and we really truly think about what's the end goal, right? Are we going to let this little bad moment get us off track from our end goal, whatever that is for that person or yourself, right? Like if we can go, all right, I got stuck here and I hate traffic and I got rear-ended and man, this day sucks. But the end goal is how are we going to react to that? Yeah. How are we going to get to our goal? Like we have to learn to adapt and pivot to get to that end goal.
Heck yeah, man. I am so grateful to have this conversation with you. I mean, this has been like totally dope.
This is amazing.
I'm looking at my notes. I'm like, we touched this. Okay. I think we hit all the marks.
Come on. This was such a great show. Thank you so much for having me on. It's truly an honor.
Oh man. I'm so blessed to, I just love that moment. I was just like, what? Like, okay. Like I just remember like hitting you up and I was just like, you said yes. Okay, let's do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Real quick, if you can, because I want to talk to you real quick after as well, but where can we find you on social media? What's the best way to reach you and connect with you?
I'm huge on Instagram. So Erik G. Allen, it's ERIK G. Allen. So respond to every comment, every DM that comes through there. The website is erikallenmedia.com. So I'm available for speaking or voiceover or brand product videos, things like that. And then of course, I love jumping on podcasts and hopefully share my story, make an impact.
Heck yeah, man. This has been like a total, like, I feel like we just driving a Ferrari around the track, man. We just like,
totally. No slowing down. Slowing down.
No, this is dope. I know that the person that is listening to this is thinking I can. I hope that's what they're thinking. Yeah. And even if it's not today, I hope they're like, you know what, maybe tomorrow. I'm just going to wait one more day and I'm going to try. I'm going to listen to Erik Allen. I'm going to listen to his story and be like, okay, I can do this. Just because this was my past doesn't mean this is going to be my future. You know what I mean? That's my vision for this episode. I hope somebody can hear your story of growing up in a household that wasn't, you know, what may have been the best, but you turned it around through your purpose. That's what I want people to hear from this. So I hope that that person is listening, and hope that that person will share it with a friend so they can help another friend.
Thank you again. This was truly an honor to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.